Okay, let's jump straight in. We're doing a deep dive today into a pretty intense look at the future economy. It's based on this paper from Yale economist Pascual Restrepo called We Won't Be Missed, Work and Growth in the Era of AGI. Kind of stark title.
It really is, and it sets the stage for a rigorous exploration.
So let's get the basics out there for you. Restrepo kicks off with two massive assumptions, foundational ones.
Absolutely.
First, AGI arrives. And we're not talking just, better chatbots. We mean real tech that can do all economically valuable work.
Everything humans currently get paid for.
Right. And second, abundant compute. Basically the idea that computational power just keeps growing like Moore's law on overdrive, almost without limits.
So we're kind of moving beyond the usual will AI take this job or that job debate.
Yeah, this is bigger picture.
Exactly. We're modeling a complete shift in the economic structure. Our mission here is to figure out how AGI plus essentially infinite compute changes the game for human labor, for wages, especially when the ability to automate everything is always increasing.
Okay, and to understand that, Restrepo first divides work into two main types, right? This distinction seems crucial.
It's absolutely central to the whole argument. He talks about bottleneck work.
Bottleneck, okay.
Yeah, these are the jobs or tasks that are essential for the economy to keep growing without hitting a wall. Think expanding energy production, logistics, building infrastructure, maybe even core scientific breakthroughs. If these inputs can't grow, the whole economy eventually just plateaus.
Right, they create ceilings. So what's the other type?
That's accessory work. Stuff that's, nice to have, but not strictly needed for overall economic expansion.
Like?
Think arts, fine dining, maybe some hospitality sectors, personal therapy. The economy could theoretically grow forever, even if we never had another five-star restaurant or another therapist hour available.
Okay, bottleneck versus accessory.
So,
got it. So how did the big assumptions AGI and compute play into this?
well, here's the first big prediction from the model. AGI, powered by all that compute, goes straight for the bottleneck work first. It automates that.
It has to automate that first.
Why? Because if the goal is unbounded economic growth, which the model kind of assumes as the underlying drive, you have to break those bottlenecks.
Ah, I see. The only way to get limitless growth is to use the limitless resource compute to overcome the limited essential tasks.
Precisely. You use compute to solve the things holding growth back.
Okay, so that step alone feels like a massive shift.
It is, and it leads to this fundamental change in how we even think about production. Economists often use this idea of a production function.
Right, like output, labor times capital, something like that.
Exactly. The classic view is multiplicative. Labor and capital work together, amplify each other. But Restrepo argues, in this AGI world, it becomes additive.
Additive? Wait, unpack that a bit. What does that mean practically?
It means output becomes something more like basically driven by the amount of compute you have, plus any remaining labor. But that labor is measured in terms of how much compute it takes to replace it.
So human labor stops being this unique, essential factor. It just becomes another quantity of input, directly substitutable by compute.
That's the core idea. If compute is abundant and can do the job, labor doesn't have that special multiplicative leverage anymore. Growth just becomes about how fast you can add more compute.
Okay. Wow. So let's connect this to the individual worker, to you listening.
Yeah.
What does this mean for wages? This sounds not great.
Yeah, this is probably the most startling part for individuals. The model predicts your wages essentially get capped.
Capped? How?
They converge to the opportunity cost of the compute needed to do your specific job.
So if a machine and AI can do my work using, say, $10 worth of compute per hour,
then your wage effectively can't sustainably go much higher than $10 per hour, no matter how much the overall economy grows. Your value is anchored to your replacement cost by compute.
that's profound. So even if GDP is skyrocketing because of all this compute-driven automation and growth,
Your personal wages could remain relatively stagnant, tied only to that compute replacement cost, which might even fall over time.
which leads to this really stark mathematical outcome, right? The labor share of GDP.
It collapses. If GDP is growing exponentially because of compute, but total human wages are basically flat, then labor's slice of the economic pie shrinks towards zero.
All the returns just flow to whoever owns the computational resources.
That's the outcome in this model, yes. It paints a picture where human labor, while maybe still doing things, especially accessory work, is no longer essential for economic growth. It becomes economically negligible.
We won't be missed.
Exactly.
To the title.
Exactly. The growth trajectory wouldn't fundamentally change if large chunks of the human workforce just stopped working.
Okay. This obviously throws up some massive challenges for society, things we need to think about, like, now.
Absolutely. The first, and maybe most obvious, is distribution. If all the wealth flows to compute owners, how do you avoid just unprecedented levels of inequality?
Right, you immediately start thinking about policies like, I don't know, heavy taxes on compute,
Yep.
or universal basic income, or dividends from AI productivity.
Some mechanism is likely needed to redistribute that wealth, assuming we still value some level of social equity.
And the other big one,
Yeah.
it's about meaning, right? Purpose.
Yeah. If our economic value, our necessity to the economic engine is severed, what does that do to our sense of purpose, individually and collectively? What happens when most work becomes purely accessory?
These are huge questions, way beyond just the economics.
They really are.
Okay, before we wrap up, any final provocative thought from the paper?
Well, Restrepo does consider the idea of AGI automating science itself accelerating discovery. That would boost growth even more. But even then, he points out that growth is still ultimately limited by our ability to build the physical infrastructure for compute. Data centers, energy, raw materials.
So the singularity isn't purely digital, it's still tied to physical expansion.
It seems so. It's still constrained by physics and building stuff in the real world. Something to keep in mind, perhaps.